me bring today's hearing to order. Gentlemen and lady, if you'll have a seat. Thank you for your forbearance. I am running a little bit late, and I apologize. This afternoon, we will hear testimony from the Department of Defense regarding nuclear matters for fiscal year 2015. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to testify today. I want to start by giving some perspective to the general topic of our nuclear stockpile. Since the first detonation of a nuclear weapon 69 years ago, we have debated whether they should exist and whether they remain relevant today. That debate will continue for the foreseeable future. It seems to me, however, that the negative aspects of this debate, particularly the relevancy of the mission, has had a negative impact on the morale of those serving us in the field. And I believe we must emphasize that as long as these weapons exist, the mission performed by the men and women of our nuclear enterprise is relevant and essential to our national security. We must be clear that we place the highest trust in their ability to carry out their duty because it involves nuclear weapons. And we must be clear that we expect a great deal from them. But above all, we must demonstrate that we care about their well-being, their families, and their future. I'm sure that our witnesses understand this, but I want to assure them that I do too. General Wilson, I'd like to congratulate you on assuming command of the Air Force Global Strike Command. I suspect a large portion of today's hearing will be centered on the recent incident involving cheating at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and I hope your testimony will provide insight into your impressions so far on what we can constructively learn from this incident. And I would add that I'm, of course, sensitive to the ongoing reviews by the services and the Secretary of Defense. General Harncack, you are the point person on the air staff trying to deconflict the various missions of the Air Force with respect to nuclear weapons. I plan to ask you about what I perceive as a gap in coordinating the Air Force's nuclear command and control. Admiral Benedict, I'd like to congratulate you as well on your promotion. This was long overdue and consistent with the recommendations of the 2008 Schlesinger report. I would like to know your perspective as a naval officer on the recent ICBM cheating incident. You are the senior naval officer responsible for the warhead and its delivery systems, and I want to hear your insight in this matter from a Navy perspective. Ms. Bunn, welcome to the subcommittee. The Department is eliminating the Office of Assistant Secretary of Defense for Global Strategic Affairs, Madeline Creedon's office. This office has a 40-year history of overseeing policy related to nuclear weapons and proliferation, as well as space and cyber. I understand your office will be separated from these other offices, which have a long and synergistic relationship with you. While you're not Senate confirmed, I would like your honest and frank assessment to the Congress of what effect this move will have on the long-term health of the policy mission you oversee, even past your tenure. With that, let me turn to my colleague and the ranking member, Senator Sessions, for his opening statement, and then we'll turn to opening statements and questions. Thank you. Senator Sessions. General Wilson, we had a nice, important visit earlier today. I want to turn to the cheating scandal. I don't want to get ahead of the ongoing investigation, but my understanding is the missile combat crews are required to achieve almost 100% score on their readiness exams in order to succeed in their careers. Is this the most effective method for evaluating the knowledge and readiness of these launch officers, and what alternatives to the exam model are you investigating?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. We're investigating all kinds of different alternatives of how we both train, test, and evaluate. As I mentioned to you earlier today, I think the 100% is an unrealistic standard that is not the right way to go. So we've got experts across the field, Air Education and Training Commands helping us. We've got behavioral psychologists. We've got a lot of folks looking at the problem as to what is, again, the best way to train, test, and then evaluate. As I mentioned to you, I've recently, within the last few days, taken the outbrief from all the work we've got going on. We've got three main efforts today. We have a command-directed investigation that I ordered looking into this problem. We have what I call a force improvement program that we've modeled, quite frankly, off of Navy work that they've done and taken their best practices. And what that is a ground roots effort to get to the people doing the job and understand those things that are inhibiting them from doing their job better. And I took the first initial outbrief from the force improvement program on Monday. We're going to take those two efforts, and then we have another effort underway with some scientists as well as AETC to help us look through the problem set. We're going to roll all those up with surveys from the families as well as the leadership, and to provide those recommendations back to the Secretary of Defense to meet his deadline here later in March.
given the importance of your mission, we look with anticipation to what those studies and your recommendations will be. I understand upwards of 92 missile officers are implicated. That's meant you've had to bring in additional crews from elsewhere, and then you've had to increase the workload of existing crews. A couple of questions along that theme. How long do you anticipate this to last? And has the readiness of the missile force suffered as a result? And I want to point out, as we all have, that the tireless, quiet professionalism of the vast majority of the men and women of our nuclear enterprise shouldn't be damaged by the alleged actions of a few.
Yes, sir. So let me answer the second question first. The readiness has not suffered, to start with. What we've done is we've taken crews from Minot and F.E. Warren, and they've augmented the team at Malmstrom Air Force Base. We'll shift the output coming out of the schoolhouse at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and we expect to be back up to full strength by late spring on the number of crews that we have available to do the mission. As a side thing that came out of this, what we found is the crews coming from both Minot and F.E. Warren to Malmstrom are learning a great deal. And so as we worked the standardization amongst all the missile crews, we found that the folks are each learning from each other, and we're taking this opportunity to make each of the teams better. So they're spending about a month from each of the bases at Malmstrom, then they're going back and rotating crews. The crews are on the same work schedule, so they're typically doing 8 alerts a month, and nobody's exceeding that. So we haven't increased the workload, but what we've done is we've found out we were able to take best practices and best ideas at all the bases, because all the bases are, quite frankly, now working at Malmstrom Air Force Base.
Okay. Admiral Benedict, could I turn to the discussion that you had in the Navy, I think about a year and a half ago, about the interoperable warhead that would combine the W-78 with the W-88. Do you still have the concerns that were expressed some 18 months ago?
Sir, 18 months ago, we expressed concerns about doing the necessary technology work, commonly referred to within the domain space as 6.262A, exploratory engineering analysis, as well as the costing of that. We expressed those concerns to the Nuclear Weapons Council. We were able to work through those concerns with both the Nuclear Weapons Council as well as the Department of Energy and NSA. And we were on a path to fully support, the Navy is, to fully support the IW effort. In the President's budget just recently submitted, the IW project is delayed to a date no earlier than 2030. And so that effort will be suspended until such time as appropriate, with lead time to support that date, sir. And when that happens, we will fully support.
I know General Wilson will understand the spirit and the question I'm going to ask you, and you will as well. The ICBM cheating scandal. Give me another services perspective. How do you test the readiness of your missile crews?
So the first thing that I'd like to say is I truly appreciate General Wilson's and the Air Force's transparency in sharing with the Navy what they are learning and what they are doing. And I would also like to assure you that as soon as we found out, we the Navy, both myself as well as Vice Admiral Connor, called General Wilson and other general officers in the Air Force and offered whatever assistance we could. And so there's great transparency between the Navy and the Air Force as we work to support the Air Force in this. From a Navy standpoint, one of the things that I have the fortunate opportunity to leverage off of is the nuclear power culture that exists on a submarine. That is an innate culture that is trained and instilled in every officer and enlisted individual who goes to sea on a submarine, the absolute high levels of standards and ethics that when reports are made and individual actions are assigned and reported as complete, that for the safety of the boat, for your individual safety and the safety of your crew member, that those are taken as absolute. So we work off of 5 fundamental principles, and I think that's what we tried to share, Admiral Connor did with General Wilson. Procedural compliance, level of knowledge, questioning attitude, forceful backup, and formality. All of those 5 traits give us a level and a layered approach to ensure that while we are all human and capable of making mistakes, that we as a team are much stronger if we implement those 5. And so those are the things that we are sharing with the Air Force, and fortunately the Air Force is sharing with us what they are learning, and we will, I assure you, integrate their lessons learned into our training programs.
Secretary Brown, I want to turn to you for my last question, but I did want to share with the committee, and I guess we're a subcommittee, but we're proud of what we do, that per Senator King's comments earlier, that from the early days, Senator King, the DOE has been studying small nuclear devices, and I'm told that Albert Einstein, of all people, urged FDR to do the kind of research into so-called suitcase bombs. So that work has proceeded apace in the DOE, but your question about deterrence in the 21st century is a fundamental one, and I hope this committee can continue to consider it, study it, discuss it. It is a challenging environment, as we know. I mentioned, Madam Secretary, in my initial remarks, my interest in your comments on the fact that we're breaking up the functions of the Global Strategic Affairs Office, and you know the details of how that's going to operate. Do you think that having your office separated from other functional areas will make it easier or harder to perform your duties? And I ask that in the context of coming out of this hearing is a real focus on modernization, efficiency, safety, training.
Senator, in this case, I don't think it will make much difference. I say that because there is some logic to having cyber, space, nuclear and missile defense, combating WMD together in an ASD ship. There's also logic in having, where we're moving to, strategy, plans, capabilities, to having nuclear and missile defense policy there as well. So no matter where my office sits on the organizational chart, I will continue to work across policy with the relevant offices, cyberspace, plan, strategy, the regional offices in Asia, Europe. So we'll continue to do that. I think the important issue is senior attention, and with the Secretary, Senator Sessions mentioned earlier, the Secretary's remarks on the importance of the nuclear mission with the nominees that we have for Deputy Secretary and Undersecretary, if they're confirmed, I think we will have that senior attention, and that's what's important in the way my office operates. Thank you.
Thank you for those insights, and we will watch this with interest and certainly on an ongoing basis. I don't know if those were the bills for the series of votes to begin, but I could turn to Senator Sessions for any other comments or questions he might have.